Let's give it up for Real Voices 2018 one more time. We'll have some of the members from the class join me up here at the front. So Brian had mentioned earlier, this question of like, who do we see on TV? How do we want to see ourselves portrayed? And so one of the major themes in the class this summer was this idea of representation. How do you see yourself represented in the media? How do you want others to understand who you are? And so what was the reason why you chose this subject for your film?
Well, me being Filipino American myself and having my sister, and having like a father in the military, I felt that what they said wasn't really talked about because when I was filming this, all the interviewees and people who I had in the film, they didn't want to be in their own house while filming. They didn't want their dads around. They felt like what they had to say couldn't be said in front of their parents. So I thought I really wanted to expose that and shed light on it.
And that was Drake from Dependent.
Should we just say our film?
Let's say your film.
So for me, I think that one of the statistics I had up was that 1 out of every 13 people have allergies, food allergies of some sort. So there are 12 people out of those 13 that don't know, and there's that one that kind of goes unnoticed a lot of times. I am that one. I not always notice. It's not something people really talk about. One of the struggles I actually had in my film was like finding people who wanted to talk about it, because a few people that I did know that had allergies didn't want to talk about it. So that was kind of the reasoning behind it. It's one of those things where I wanted to bring light to something that nobody really was talking about, and it's really important. So.
Berean from To All the Foods I Can't Eat.
Hi, my name is Vivian Munoz. My film was Brujeria, and the reason why I wanted to focus on mental health in the Latino community was that, like, within my family, I was seeing things that no one was talking about or willing to talk about. I had family going to therapy and doing all these different things, being recommended medication, and no one wanted to talk about it because it was considered really, really embarrassing. And I think that it's really sad that a community that's really tight-knit and really loves each other is not willing to be vulnerable around each other. And I wanted to open up that conversation and be able to allow myself to be seen as vulnerable and allow other people to feel comfortable being vulnerable in front of each other.
And I guess with my film, I just kind of had the idea of like, or when I entered Real Voices, they were telling me to like have a story, or not have a story, but like come up with a story to tell. Like we all had to like have a story to tell, and so I guess I kind of chose mine because it was really like personal, and yeah, I told my story, or my family's story. We're here to go.
We'd like to give a chance for the audience to ask questions. So is there anybody here have a question for one of our filmmakers? You could just raise your hand. Oh, more information about your film, Berean? Oh, Drake.
So basically, I wanted to know, I feel like my film was really about, because like I said earlier, I had a sister and she never really expresses anything, like any emotion, to be honest. So I feel like with this film and me interviewing these 5 Filipino girls on their experience with their fathers, I really was trying to find my own sister's experience, and how like me going through them was trying to find like my own story too. And I feel like I was searching for something, and I think I found it, to be honest, because this film, like when my parents watched this film, it really opened up the story to, like opened up what I wanted to talk about with my family for the first time in like 18 years. So I feel like that's how it went.
Do you have another question out there? Okay, great. Let's do right here with the sleeve. Yep. When you were working on your film, was there anything that you learned about yourself outside of like the characters that you were working with and the places that you visited?
Um, I guess something I really realized was like well, my topic was really like hard to talk about from the beginning, and so when I kind of like started it, no one in my family was really like down like that. Like they were just, now why do we gotta get an interview in? Like they were really like not helping, and so for me to actually like set them down and like talk to them one on one, because as you guys can tell, like his passing was really like tragic, and like we didn't talk about that in the family, or we did, but like we're still kind of like coping with it. And so for us to talk about it, it finally like opened things up, and it allowed my family and I to get closer more than ever.
So with my film, I ended up learning a lot more about my family and our relationship, I think, because before I was like super determined. I'm like, I'm dead set, I'm gonna get these types of answers from these people because I already went through this whole experience with them. We already did like the whole therapy jazz, like we already kind of know what's happening. And then I was able to, after a while of like him refusing to talk on camera, I got my dad to interview. And it was really, really interesting because I think for me, I was recognizing that even though I had a better relationship with them, there's always room to improve. And there's things I didn't know about them because it's not a super casual dinner conversation, I guess, to talk about your mental health and to talk about things that make you uncomfortable. And I think that that's maybe what I learned is I like kind of feeling uncomfortable, and I like figuring out those situations and maybe, I don't know, going more in depth in things that you normally don't want to talk about.
For me, it was an interesting experience because I didn't think I was gonna learn anything. Living with food allergies my whole life, I'm like, I got this. Like, I know everything I need to know. Like, I'm not dead. So, going in, I think it was the interview you heard last over the credits. I interviewed my friend Richard, and that was really cool for me, at least, because what I realized during that was that like I could have those conversations, and they didn't have to be every conversation that I've had has been like very serious, very monotonous, very formal, and we're just sitting and we were talking like it was cool. And through this I realized how to like be cool about like not so casual topics. Yeah.
For me, it was really with the interview process, and like I said earlier, how these girls didn't want their dads around, they didn't want their parents around. We had to go somewhere else, or like I would text them like, "Are your parents home right now?" It wasn't like that dim sum get some sort of thing, but like, it was really like eye opening to see like them talking with and how they feel and their story with their parents, relating it back to myself too. But by the end of the interview, it was like they really realized, like in the beginning it was really, oh, I hate my dad, he's never around, I don't know him and he doesn't know me. But in the end it was really finding, I want him here right now, but he isn't. And I feel like that was the biggest takeaway. And one thing I learned myself too, that even though we may like hate our parents like as much as we do, like we still love them in the end. And I feel like that's what I learned.
Thank you. I saw an excited hand back there. Yep, go ahead. Question is, what inspired you to join Real Voices?
What inspired me, because when I first joined, I didn't know what my film was going to be about. I didn't know any of that or the storytelling process. But all I knew from Real Voices, I have a 10-week summer program where I can make a film about anything. And I was applying to school, like I was going through the process of starting to look at schools and all of that. And then when you see at USC, it's like, requires film. I was like, there we go. Then I joined, yeah.
Man, for me, I think it was just like the opportunity to like do my first documentary, and like being able to really just like zone in and try something new, especially like being creative. I kind of had a pretty good idea about what I wanted to do, but I think just going and doing something different and being able to be creative. That's kind of what led me in, and then I applied.
For me, I think everyone knows that I've been pretty candid about it. Like, I was interested in film. Like, I've done like group projects in school and I was okay at it. But I was kind of like, I need money for college. Like, I don't know how I'm going to go to college if I don't get at least like some scholarship money. So I ended up applying, and honestly, the like experience has been worth so much more than just the money itself, because it's like you're working with these amazing minds and you have really, really great guidance. Like, you have Frank and Riz that like really, really help you out, and you have other artists. And I think that knowing what I know now, if I would have known the exposure to other art and other people that care about the world in the same way that I did, that would have been 100% the reason why I applied.
And I guess with my instance, I was actually at I was at this meeting for my volunteer group, and they were, I think someone came in. Oh no, they released a website on Facebook or something, but it was like Real Voices, and I was like, dang, film. Like, I was never like really, I'm not into. I mean, I'm into it and like I'm interested in it, but like I really had no like experience or anything like that. So I was like, maybe I'll just give it a shot. You know, I have like a story to tell, maybe, and then I ended up applying and then going through the process. I've managed to like create great friends through the process, meet with amazing people like artists and everything like that, and yeah, that's what drove me to kind of join Real Voices.
Great, thank you. And let's do in the back with the hat, and then I'll get to you in the front. So what advice do you have for future filmmakers?
Definitely apply for Real Voices class of 19. Like, I'm plugging right now because that's cool and all, but yeah, I think Real Voices is a great program if you want to like have a start like into filmmaking like we did, you know? So that's a good tip, I guess.
I guess I would tell you to just not be afraid to tell something that makes you super uncomfortable and maybe makes your family a little bit uncomfortable, because no good stories are going to be boring enough for you to say in front of your grandma really easily.
Apply to Real Voices, but don't be afraid to just go out. The number one thing you can do is go out, film, write. I wrote a lot of scripts because I couldn't really get access to like do film stuff, but like film on your phone. Like 30 or 40% of my film was like shot on my phone. Write scripts, just get out there, do it. Like, don't sit around. If you want to be a filmmaker, you gotta do it.
I feel like the biggest thing too is having a story. We all have the opportunity because it's really out there. It's like we think it's inaccessible or we don't have it, but you have the opportunity. It's just having the story and telling that. Yeah.
Great. I think we have right here in the middle. Sorry, this. What kind of person were you like before Real Voices, and do you feel like the program changed you in any way?
Well, before Real Voices, I was really one-laned, closed-minded, eyes closed, small eyes. Anyways, I really like got a global perspective of the world, because the artists you meet aren't only from like the San Diego area. They're from Tijuana and like all around. They're doing their work. So I feel like, bless you, getting their story really inspired me. Like, what am I doing in my life right now to help that?
I have been completely like, I've done like a 180 as far as like being open-minded and being willing to like try new things, but also like creatively. Excuse me. I was very set in my ways, but I think Real Voices really like allowed me to like open up and try new things and be cool with failing, and that's something I can take away, and I'll be taking away the rest of my life.
Yeah, I think with myself too, like I can kind of agree that I was really, really set in my ways. Like I was already really opinionated, and I already had all these different aspects on what I thought was art and what I considered to be my style of art and all these different things. But I think when you come out and work with other people that challenge you a little bit, it's really, really helpful. Because for me, like, I already thought, this is what's right in the world, this is what's wrong in the world, this is what needs to be done. And I realized that, you know, you don't always have to have the answers, that there's always going to be different answers for different people. And, you know, people are always going to have different outlooks, I guess. And that's really, really important because, you know, you only have your outlook. Like, I only had my outlook as, you know, a Mexican American woman, but then getting to experience that from other perspectives and experience my story and have other people tell me that they understood similar things or they disagreed with what I had to say. It was really, really nice to grow as a person, I guess. That's all I have to say.
I agree with everything they said before because, yeah. But what I kind of took from that was that before I was really not exactly, yeah, I just kind of like kept to myself, wasn't really emotional about stuff. I didn't really talk about my feelings or anything like that. But from just the sessions and like the days of like going to Real Voices, I managed to like just meet new artists. And then I forgot what was her name, but she came in and she told us that it was okay to be vulnerable.
Lisa Corona.
Lisa Corona. Like Lisa Corona's session, like when she came in and spoke to us, it was really like inspiring because you know, like you just don't really talk about stuff that are like sad in like Asian families, or in my family at least. And for me to actually like go out of my way and start speaking about that stuff, it made me a better person. And yeah, I'm thankful for that.
Okay, we have room for 2 more questions. I have one here in the front. When you were interviewing people in your film, did you find yourself relating to them in any way?
So with my film, I interviewed my family. So with my sisters, you know, I love them to death, and getting their interviews in was like kind of fun because like they're showing their little like personalities and stuff. And then with my mom, she was actually really, like I said earlier, she was like giving me a hard time with the interview because it was hard for her, you know. And so I actually managed to sit her down on like the day she was leaving for Vietnam, and we got that interview in one take. And like it was really emotional for her, and I felt like it allowed her to really like release a lot of emotions that she was keeping in for her like her trip, you know. And then when she came back, she was like a better person, or she's always been a good person, but you know what I mean with that. Yeah.
So when I was interviewing people in my film, I feel like, you know, as much as you don't want to admit that there's a barrier there, like like with my family, there's first a language barrier because, you know, their first language is Spanish and mine is English. And the second part is I just didn't grow up in a super, super Latino culture. Like I got to grow up in San Diego, which has like a little flair, but otherwise none of that. So like I feel like I better got to understand them because before it was like, oh, you know, they're just kind of like, they hate talking about emotions. They're so like, they don't get it. You know, they're just like old Mexican people. They're never going to understand. And then, you know, I got to see them be vulnerable and really uncomfortable. And, you know, I knew that they loved me enough to try and work through being uncomfortable for me and whatever I wanted to do. So it was a lot of understanding through, I guess, not talking.
I would say I connected most, at least, with my aunt and some of my uncle because they're the ones like with food allergies. Their son, my cousin, has like really, really bad food allergies, and he's had some problems before, and they were really like willing to come up and like share their story. And they're like, oh yeah, like if it'll help, like sign me up, like I'll pull up wherever, let's do this. And so they were really down, and like off camera at least, like we were talking a lot, and I think we were able to kind of connect in a way. Also, just like everybody I talked to, I think we both got something out of it. I think there's a symbiotic relationship with interviews. That's something I've learned with Real Voices. Interviews really like they help both people, the interviewer and the interviewee. And so I think I connect with everybody, yeah.
For me also, like I connected with all of them because like I said before, most of their stories haven't been told. I mean, when I see them in school, it's like they're all, it's not like to say that they're surface level girls. It's just like they don't really talk about their families or any of that. So I really connected with them and tried connecting with my own story as well, and all of that influenced what went on in the film. So yeah.
Great. So we have time for one more question here in the middle.
How do your initial stories change over the course of your interviews and like just like your filming in general?
So for me, initially, this was supposed to be an interview with both the fathers in the military, sons in the military, like daughters in the military, and I didn't just set it as only Filipinos, but then I realized how many of one select like niche or group there is of just one. So I could have gone many different routes, like doing sons, like interviewing the dads. Like I did get some interviews with the dads, and it was really interesting to see his perspective versus the daughters, but you can only fit so much into one film, so I chose to take the more vulnerable route and see what they had to say.
Man, for me, like there's been so many different versions. It's been like crazy. There's been like times in the beginning where I wasn't even going to be in it. I was never going to appear. You're never going to hear me. As I shot more footage, that changed, but I think the pivotal point was then I just realized editing. I'm like, I have food allergies. Like, why am I not in here? Like, that made no sense. So I did not a 360, but like, I shifted. And it's crazy because there's so much in there that you don't see, and I think that's for every film. But yeah, I think that was the biggest thing. Like, I was not going to be in this film at all. It might have also been longer, but I think it's cool.
And mine is actually the opposite. I was gonna be in my film, and then I like started recording with myself, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm so annoying, and I'm like not saying anything different than what I'm already getting from these other people that are, you know, choosing to help me out and be in this. So it was one of those things where it was like, you know, I also found out, you know, by being around other artists and stuff, that like I kind of like the ambiguity of like, was that girl in there my sister? Was she the daughter of the two people in there? You know, I kind of liked not knowing whether or not these people were family or not, because it just kind of brought it more as like, you know, this is an issue in the community. Is this one small family, or is this a bunch of different people? I don't know. I ended up liking that a little bit more. So that's how my film changed.
And with my film, at first, I was just planning on talking about like my family restaurants. So with my dad's side, we actually own like multiple Vietnamese restaurants throughout San Diego. And yeah, that was just like what I wanted to talk about, and maybe pay like a little tribute to my dad at the end or something like that. But like I said earlier, with like Lisa Corona's like presentation, and also all of the artists, I kind of realized that I really need to dig deeper with my story and aim deeper and go to like the central location. And I ended up just making it about my like little family diner instead. And I felt like it impacted more, not exactly more people, it just impacted me better. And yeah, that was why.
Great. So I'm sure you could tell there were lots of blood, sweat, and tears to put into the film. And so thank you again, everybody, for being here with us for this screening. If you want to learn more about Real Voices, we actually have a website, realvoicessd.org, real, R-E-E-L, like a film reel. And then you could also follow us on Instagram at Real Voices. So if you have questions, please save them. And you'll see actually the filmmakers in the lobby when you're done with your film. We have a sign-up sheet, and we have more information, and Frank and I are also there to answer any questions about the program if you have them. So yeah, so there's a $500 award, and then also you get to screen your film at the San Diego Asian Film Festival, and it's free, so definitely apply.
Please come
Thank
talk to us.